What are you looking at? Her son ignored her. Will you come away from that window? She said irritably. I just got them drapes dry cleaned. Don't want your grubby hands all over them. The lanky 16-year-old let go of the drapes and edged towards the centre of the room, his gaze still fixed outside. She rolled her eyes at him, then secretly smiled to herself. Looking down, she realised she was still holding the picture frame in her lap. Priceless, she thought. Behind the gleaming glass was a certificate, and on it a list of her son's exam results. She smiled and placed it in the middle of the coffee table. She eased herself back into the settee, only to feel a jab in her rib cage. She looked to her side and let out a heavy groan. She released the air slowly, then pulled a white bust from beside her and eyeballed it. Hello, Sally, she said cheerfully, placing it on the coffee table in front of her. Her body slumped. It's going to be a right disaster, she said, staring at Sally. Her son replied absent-mindedly, still transfixed by whatever was going on outside. I mean, who's ever heard of a charity auction with nothing to auction? Her son cleared his throat. What am I going to do? It's only a week away. He tentatively shifted to the opposite side of the window, still staring out. That waiting room needs a proper refurb, and I mean a proper refurb. It needs gutting for a start, and a decent telly. She picked up an assortment of combs and brushes and sprawled them next to Sally. I did my bit. I wrote to them celebs and not one peep out of them. They don't care. She took the wig off her head, surveyed it, preened it, then gave her polished scalp a good scratch. These things itch like anything. She eyeballed Sally again. Looks like I'm going to have to auction you off, Sally. She chuckled and looked up at her son, who had now drifted back to the middle of the window. You'd think at least one of them would have written back, sent something through. I would love a set of boxing gloves off that Frank Bruno, she pondered. Who? Her son asked, briefly distracted. Frank Bruno. He gave her a quizzical look. You know, that big black bruiser off the telly. Her son twitched the net curtain and turned his gaze back outside. You know, she said coaxingly. Lowering her tone, she mimicked, You know what I mean, Harry. She watched him press his nose against the window pane and let out a huff. I suppose it's well before your time. Those biting words, well before your time, reverberated in her head. That's the problem with these C-rated celebs, she said bitterly. Think they're immune. She dragged a fine tooth comb through the hair. Nobody's immune. The comb snagged. No one, she said, fighting with both comb and wig. She tugged, but it refused to come free. Frustrated, she threw the wig into the bin. The edge of it knocked over the picture frame, and she scrambled to rescue it. She looked at the results again. She had never expected him to be a genius. She lovingly stroked the frame and reread the results. G, D, E, fail, fail, fail. Problem with this world. She placed the frame back in its special spot on the coffee table. People want to put you in a box. She looked over at the bin, then over at her son. She would never have expected him to be so tall and handsome. Yet another welcome surprise. She got up and went to the bin. They want to judge you, she said, looking down at the scrambled mess strangling the comb. Put a death sentence on you. That ain't right. She reached down and pulled the wig out. Bits of dust and old cigarette ash clung to the strands. She slapped the wig against her thigh. You fight, you hear, she said to her son. You fight every one of them. She returned to her seat and pressed the wig onto Sally. She stared at the impossible tangle, inhaled, then picked up an afro comb and began teasing the strands free. Whatever it takes, she thought. If she could make it to her son's 16th birthday, she could make it to his 18th. She was already saving up for a second gold-plated picture frame. The comb finally came loose, and she smiled to herself as she looked up at her son. Her smile disappeared. Her shoulders dropped. Will you come away from that window? She snapped. People will be calling you a perv if you keep it up. I ain't having anyone calling my son a perv. Her son quickly ducked behind the wall and, in an urgent, hushed voice, said, Mum, there's a big black bloke walking up and down our street. Are you sure? She said, startled. She pushed Sally away and cautiously approached the window. Pulling back the net curtain, she looked both ways down the street. Then she turned to her son. Big black bloke, you said? He nodded. She gave him a worried look. Should we call the police? She asked. The doorbell rang.